Hello, 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 guys. Welcome to our next video. I'm so excited about this next one. Okay, why am I excited? Because this video literally is one of the most important things when it comes to your freedom. You're here for wealth, you're here for freedom, the ability to choose life on your terms, the ability to do whatever you want to do with your time, with your energy. It is yours, but there are specific numbers that you need to know. So you've already done your net worth calculation. This next one is going to be a game changer for you as well. And I will tell you that. This is such useful information that it helped me when we're traveling. It helps many of my members have the peace of mind to be able to take sabbatical. It just helps you put down pen to paper, whether you're single, whether you're married. This is literally the key that you need in order to have freedom. Not freedom in the future, long term, freedom now. Okay, so I'm going to introduce to you the liberation ladder. So you may have heard of this before. You may have heard me talk. No one is going to teach you about this, but you may have heard me talk about the liberation ladder before, but you haven't actually calculated the number. I want you to commit to calculating the number. Again, it's not about knowing the specific down to the penny. I don't know mine specific down to the penny, but the more you know it, the more peace of mind you're going to have. The more you know it, the more freedom you're going to have. And the liberation ladder also honestly just gives you peace of mind, like that safety that we all want so that we can take risks. When I know my liberation number, it makes it easier for me to take risks. And when I say risk, I'm not talking about jumping off the bed or whatever, or jumping off a bridge. I'm talking about risk in terms of like cutting down at work, quitting my job, taking a sabbatical, buying a property, right? Dipping into my emergency funds. These numbers are liberating. Okay. So freedom is not a vague destination. It has a number. It has a number. Um, Hello there.
Madam,
Bowen.
why you,
I am
Madam?
good. I paused my recording when the phone started ringing.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Shukran so high.
Behind me. All
Okay.
right.
Shasha, all right.
I'm trying to be all right.
Okay.
One, to forget us the other.
Yeah, I'm just trying to pound out. Of course, I'm okay. I'm trying to record our modules for Kenny. For Wealth Village, like new training videos. So I didn't want to procrastinate, and I have 12, so I'm doing the fourth one.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, dear.
Right.
All right, bye. I think I'm back to recording. Anyway, sorry, I got a phone call. My husband called me, and I was like, "What's going on?" They're swimming right now. But anyway, so freedom is not a vague number. It has a number. It has a it's not a vague destination. It has a number. So here's the truth. Most physicians have a vague goal. For you, I want you to get specific. Like it doesn't have to be to the dollar, but to the thousands. Or you get what I mean? Like how much thousands? Like when it comes to the numbers, like I want you to get specific. Narrow it down. It doesn't have to be anal, but you get my point. Most physicians have a specific goal, like think about financial security, financial independence, financial freedom. By the way, just to remind you, financial freedom is when you're replacing your income with passive or semi-passive income. When you're in replacing your expenses with passive or semi-passive. So these numbers that we're talking about here in terms of the liberation ladder has to do with freedom, but the way I teach it is just different from the way that many people teach it. I love to teach it in a way that makes it practical, scalable, so that you can know exactly where you are in your journey. So all of this have real goals, but you want to have numbers associated with it, right? You don't want to save vaguely. You want to like you don't want to invest vaguely. You don't want to earn vaguely, right? You want to be specific, and nothing is ever going to feel enough because you have not defined what enough actually is. Nothing, you're going to feel like I'm going to run out of money, I'm going to run out of money because you haven't defined specificity what the numbers are. Okay. So this is one of the quotes that most people save vaguely, invest vaguely, earn vaguely with a vague goal of financial security, and then they wonder why nothing ever feels like it's enough. Like that's why, because we're so vague. And I know it too. Like when I'm in seasons where there's a change and I don't do an assessment, I'm not looking, there's that background, almost like, oh, is everything okay? And then when I answer the specificity of the kinds of information that we're going to talk about, the peace of mind is like priceless. So this is not just about you. This is what I use as well. And that's why I have so much conviction about the fact that this is what no one is teaching women physicians, and this is what we need. Okay. So liberation ladder. Again, you may have maybe been to a workshop that I've done before, I've been in this community, or you're watching this in a different season of your life. That means that you need to do this calculation again because something has changed. So your liberation ladder has three levels. Okay. The very first step I call the minimum viable. And minimum viable is like what you need to be alive. What do you need? Like the bare minimum that is required. Because ultimately, when it comes to safety, when your brain is like, we're gonna run out of money, you're gonna be broke, we're gonna be homeless. It's asking you, do we have the minimum viable? That's what it's asking. Are you prepared for the minimum? Like that's literally what it's asking. The other reason why I like those numbers too is especially when you're in a growth phase of your wealth, is that it helps you invest a little bit more uncomfortably. What do I mean by that? So if you're trying to buy a property and you're like, oh, I want to buy a duplex, and then you see a triplex that is going to require like $30,000 or $50,000 more in down payment, you may want to go into your emergency funds. You may, and that's okay because you're buying an asset. But your brain may now go, oh my goodness, are we going to be in trouble if something happens? Now you want to go back to your minimum viable to do the math. And so you can remind yourself, okay, we have our minimum viable present in our emergency funds times whatever number of months, we are going to be okay. So, let me give you a more specific example. If you're like maybe you have $50,000 in your emergency funds. I'm just picking out a random number, $50,000 in your emergency funds. And now you're taking 30,000 of it to like, as part of your down payment. Now you're left with $20,000. And your brain is like, oh my goodness, we don't have insurance. We're going to be in trouble. We only have $20,000. But when you go look at your minimum viable expense, maybe your minimum viable expense is like $4,000. So now you know that, okay, we're going to be okay for 5 months, right? For 5 months while I'm reaccumulating, while I'm rebuilding, right? So that way it gives your brain specific numbers to solve for so that you're not freaking out. So does that make sense? So minimum viable expense is critically important. And then there's a comfortable amount. Comfortable expense is what your current life, your comfortable life well maintained. We're eating, we're going out a little bit. Maybe we're not traveling internationally, but we can take a vacation. Like, it's a comfortable life. We're not pinching pennies by any shape or form. We're comfortable. And then bougie is your life by design. Like the things like things that make you like feel rich, the things like, okay, want to travel here. We're giving maximally. Like that is your bougie life, right? So think about, and also that's part of support as well, like bougie level of support, as opposed to, okay, if it's bougie level of support, maybe I'll have like a babysitter come in like, I don't know, 5 times a week. I'm just giving a random example. Comfortable, maybe a babysitter coming in like twice a week. Minimum viable is like, listen, I'm my own babysitter. Y'all gonna chill out. Y'all gonna chill out. You get my point. So these are the things that I actually have found to be super duper helpful. And I'm going to, so the minimum viable, like I mentioned earlier, it's like your psychological insurance. Because when you know it, when you have it covered, your nervous system can naturally relax. You will take less crap at work. You're willing to walk if needed. You stop making decisions from emergency mode. You stop accepting less than what you should accept, right? You also are able to live in some level of uncertainty because you have some certainty in terms of the numbers, right? So you can take more risk, and risk is part of how we grow wealth. Again, your risk, my risk are going to be different. Single, married, single income, divorced, um, all of that is going to affect the level of risk you may choose to take or not take. But just understand that this specific numbers helps you thrive better in uncertainty, which is one of the requirements for building wealth. You have to be willing, able to maintain your nervous system even as you go through some, turbulent times or uncertainty. It also gives you negotiating power for negotiating power. Like for example, there was a year where I did locums, then I negotiated 6 months later just because I wanted to. I was just like, my rates are different. And I had the power to walk. I had the power to negotiate because again, my minimum viable expenses was solid. And just with that negotiation, the delta was about estimated was about $65,000 for the year. And this like working 1 week a month. And imagine that getting $65,000 more because you negotiated, right? So this number, it has like specific consequences. If you're someone going through a divorce, it gives you the ability to negotiate harder with your ex-spouse, with your spouse. If you're someone that is leading a hospital, you're able to lead more vehemently and truthfully and solidly because you're not afraid of what would happen to your income. Okay. So again, going even more specific, what are the things like housing, like your rent, housing, mortgage or rent, your food? Maybe normally you would shop at Whole Foods. Your minimum viable would be Trader Joe's. I mean, I do Trader Joe's normally. Trader Joe's and Costco are my places. I don't even like Whole Foods, but y'all do you boo. Utilities like reeled back in. Maybe normally you'd have like all the lights on forever, like all my kids do. If you're minimum viable, it may be like a third of what you pay, or maybe half of what you pay. Transportation, like with intentionality, and again, cutting back your basic insurances, and then like minimum debt services. So for someone that maybe you have a lot of debt that you're trying to pay off by a certain date, minimum viable is like lean in. So like, what is the minimum debt payment, like the monthly payment option that I can pick? And just knowing that number, you will see that sometimes your monthly income will actually can be enough to last you like 3 minimum viable months. And again, this is not for you to live in minimum viable. These are psychological tools that makes it easier for you to do the things that you want to do. And what I love about this as well is, for me psychologically, it gives me a range of where I can live. So there are times when I maybe we're buying a property, we're taking some big challenges or big risk and investing our money or giving more aggressively or whatever, where we may need to lean in, right? This is all about choice. This is all about like, if I can be a person that can find joy at minimum viable, find joy at comfortable expense, find joy at bougie, I get to enjoy life regardless. And that's a skill set that every single one of us wants to build, because that tells you a level, they have a level of detachment from things. Um, of course, we want food. Of course, we want bougie, but I don't want your joy to be dependent on the external, because then you are giving your power away. So, can you live in minimum viable and still have joy? Can you live in comfortable and still have joy? Can you live in bougie and still have joy? These are, again, psychological tools that ensure that my relationship with money, my relationship with wealth, my relationship with myself is on like in the green. So this is minimum viable. And you can now imagine like comfortable is the next level up. So you can do that math as well for what your comfortable is. And then you can now do for Bougie. As you can see, I did not include something like private school here because, again, these are psychological safety tools. And what I love about these numbers is it also now starts to give you a scale of how you can start to replace your income. Many times people talk about, yeah, I want financial freedom, I want financial freedom, but we'll just toss it in the air like, oh, I need to replace my income. You don't need to replace your income. What you need to do is start on a stepwise manner. Can you replace your minimum viable expense first? If you're replacing your minimum viable expense because you're doing a non-clinical work like expert witness, or you're doing pharma, you're doing speaking, you're selling books that you've written, you're investing in, if you want to invest for a dividend in the stock market, you can do that. For most physicians, it's not the best idea from a tax perspective, considering, especially if you're still working clinically, but those are options of things that you can do to replace your income. You have your business. You can replace like the minimum viable, right? Once you start with that, it starts to make you feel so good. You're like, oh my goodness, I can make $4,000, and literally for you, maybe one expert witness work. Like it changes your swag. It changes your swag completely. And maybe one consulting gig changes your swag completely. Right. So now once you replace your minimum viable, you can replace your comfortable number, you can replace your bougie. And that's how you can go from, like, I call it like P1, P2, P3. That's how I go from like P1, which is like passive income level one, passive income level two, passive income level three. And I use the word passive income in quote because I don't think about passive income the way it's taught in general. I think about it as like, your clinical is the most active work you can do. And then semi-passive is when you're not exchanging money for time one to one. So it could be like real estate, it could be it could be real estate, but you could also think about it as like it could be non-clinical work that you're doing, not clinical, meaning not patient direct interaction. So for some of you guys that have your own practice, maybe you have a physician that works with you, and now the money that you're making from that physician or physician extender, maybe it's giving you some cash flow every month. So now if that's covering your minimum viable for your personal expense, you can see how you're moving up the P1, P2, P3, and P3 is when your bougie, everything is now covered. But again, there is a clinical income, there's a non-clinical income, and then there is now like non active completely. So clinical, non-clinical, and then completely hands off, right? So those are the ways that I want you to think about it. And for you, it may require a combination. It may require a combination of, like, if you're doing, say, real estate, if you're doing like syndication, that may be like your completely not clinical. But then if you're doing things like consulting, you're doing speaking, you're doing expert witness, you know, that would be what's it called? That would be like non-clinical, not completely passive, but somewhere in between there. So it's more of a scale as opposed to like, oh, passive or non-passive. That's how I think about it. So yeah, when you know those numbers, decisions make things easy. You know exactly what you have covered, minimum, comfortable, bougie. You know exactly how much buffer you're building. You know exactly what you're working towards. You negotiate harder. You can walk away easier. And so your assignment before the next video you watch is I want you to calculate those three levels of liberation ladder. The minimum viable, the comfortable, the bougie, like write down the actual numbers. And again, yes, it will vary month to month. But when you know what does it cost me average, you can look in the last 6 months. What does it cost me averagely to eat? Like what does it cost us if we did not go out? Like if we ate at home, we'll probably be like half of your ex of what you spend on eating. Like what would that number look like? Housing, what would that number look like? Insurance, what would that number look like? Like these numbers are the foundation. And as you calculate it, it may feel a little stressful, to be honest with you, but you will feel your nervous system relax. And I've seen this happen over and over and over again. Coming up with this system is one of the best things that I've come up with, and I wrote about it in my book, Power to Choose, because I truly believe that this is the key to freedom that physicians need now, not like 10 years from now, not 40 years, like right now, in order to be well. So make sure you do the workbook, and I cannot wait to coach you inside of the community. Come in. Let's talk. Let's see where you may be getting stuck. Let's see like what your brain drama is. And we would love to serve you. I want to coach you and I want to celebrate you. Congratulations! And by the way, if this is not your first time watching this, congratulations! If this is your third time, congratulations! If it's your 10th, oh, okay, all right, bye. I love you guys. Bye.